What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to break down the frame control strategies used by the president of Russia, my dad, Vladimir Putin. So we're going to play several clips from his interviews and see how exactly he's able to control the frame in every situation. Alright, so I want to preface this video by saying this by no means an endorsement of Putin. I'm not even necessarily a fan of him, but I do find his frame control to be a thing of beauty. He's definitely a force to be reckoned with. So in this video, we're going to take aside all the politics and all the crazy shit that he does and just focus on the game aspect of it, i.e. his frame control. Another thing I want to mention is this video was definitely a bit on the difficult side to make because 99% of the good shit of Putin owning people is not translated English. So I wanted to avoid all the stuff that just subtitles and actually do the clips that were fully translated English. So that really limited our options. But I think we still have more than enough material to really just drive this point home and analyze his frame control tactics. All right, with that aside, let's jump into the video. So the first one is him talking to an NBC News exclusive. And this is someone calling him a killer.
Of his adversaries.
The late John McCain in Congress called you a killer. When President Trump was told that you are a killer, he didn't deny it. When President...
I love Putin's deadpan stare. I'm about to be a killer right now if you keep this up, motherfucker.
Biden was asked whether he believes you are a killer. He said, I do. Mr. President, are you a killer?
Послушайте меня.
Now, the first thing that Putin does, and I don't want to, minimize this, but he does the dismissive laugh. So, the fact that he's a killer is a very serious allegation. But by laughing at it in a dismissive way, like as if the guy asked him, oh, can I borrow $3 for parking or something like that, it just kind of minimalizes the whole thing. So he's taking a very serious topic and minimalizing it with his laugh.
In my tenure, I've gotten used to attacks from all kinds of angles and from all kinds of areas under all kinds of pretext and reasons, and of different caliber and fierceness, and none of it surprises me. So as far as harsh rhetoric, I think that this is...
So the second thing he does is he categorizes. He uses categorization of, so the person basically calls him a killer, right? Which is, again, serious allegation. He's saying, yeah, I've gotten used to rhetoric. So he's categorizing everything that is being thrown at him as gossip or rhetoric. Once it's categorized in the category that people find easy to dismiss, because everyone can agree that, we can dismiss gossip, we can dismiss rhetoric, right? But, it's hard to dismiss that someone's a killer. But if you categorize it as rhetoric, then it becomes a lot easier to dismiss.
An expression of overall U.S. culture. Of course, in Hollywood, there are some underlying deep things in Hollywood, macho, which can be treated as cinematic art. But that is part of U.S. political culture where it's considered normal. By the way, not here. It is not considered normal here.
I don't think I heard you answer the question.
And this guy's defense, he definitely calls him out, and he's like, yo, you just completely avoided the question. So this guy, is not backing down.
The direct question, Mr. President.
I did answer. I'll add if you let me. I've heard dozens of such accusations, especially during the period of some grave events during our counterterrorism efforts in North Caucasus. And when that happens, I'm always guided by the interests of the Russian people and Russian state. And sentiments in terms of who calls somebody whom, what kind of labels, this is not something I worry about in the least.
Again, so what he does is he reiterates his previous point. He uses the same strategy. He's categorizing all the allegation as gossip, and then he's saying, well, I'm above this. I don't have time for gossip. So how may this apply to you? Well, let's say your girl comes at you with something like, oh, Nancy said blah, 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 you did this and this and this. Babe, that's just gossip. I don't have time for gossip. Basically, that's a shorter version of what he does. You categorize it, and then you say, well, I'm above that. I'm above this category. So it's a very interesting frame control strategy.
Let me give you some names. Anna Politkovskaya, shot dead. Alexander Litvinenko, poisoned by polonium. Sergei Magnitsky, allegedly beaten and died in prison. Boris Nemtsov, shot moments from the Kremlin, moments from here. Mikhail Lesin died of blunt trauma in Washington.
He's like, you're about to have blunt trauma right now.
In D.C. Are all of these a coincidence, Mr. President?
Again, same strategy. He uses that dismissive laugh because, again, very serious allegation. He just mentioned 5 people that were, probably very likely killed by Putin or, not directly, obviously, but by his order. So, again, dismissive laugh, minimalizing the whole thing, and then he does the reframe.
Look, I don't want to come across as being rude, but this looks like some kind of indigestion, except that it's verbal indigestion. You've mentioned many individuals who indeed...
So this is another interesting thing that he does. So this guy is, again, levying these, he's going hard at Putin, like, this person. Putin, instead of saying, well, these are, some, serious allegations, actually, blah, blah, blah. No, he's saying, this is the biggest horseshit I've ever heard. He's saying this is verbal indigestion, which is basically that. He's going hard the other way. He's like, this is so fucking dumb. Even though he knows these things are true, he's saying, this is so fucking dumb. And when a viewer hears this, it's like, well, who's right? This guy is very confident that, Putin killed these people. Putin is so confident this is a ridiculous claim, like, it kind of really makes you, like, wonder who's correct. So, again, a way a different person might have handled that is he might have started justifying himself and might have said, well, blah, blah, blah. Putin doesn't do that. He just, like, says, this is fucking horseshit. But he does it in a socially calibrated way, which, again, is a very powerful frame control strategy. Hey, if you guys are finding value from this video, then make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. All right, back to the video.
For various reasons, at the hands of different individuals. You mentioned Lazin. Lazin used to work in my administration. I liked him very much. He died, he perished, or died in the United States. I regret to this day that he is not with us. In my opinion, he is a very decent, very good person. And as far as the others, we found some of the criminals who committed those crimes. Some are in prison, and we're prepared to continue to work in this mode.
So this is another thing that he does. This is how he ends off. So frame control isn't usually just one tactic. It's a combination of different tactics. So the first thing he did is a dismissive laugh. Then he went hard the other way by saying, this is so ridiculous. And then what he does to really bring this full circle is he sides with the person asking the question. He's like, yeah, this is, we're going to get to the bottom of this. I have my police, we arrested some people, we're going to be arresting other people. So for example, your girl says, yeah, I heard blah, 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 blah. Whoa, this is so ridiculous. But we do need to figure this out together. Even though obviously he knows he's like, responsible for this shit, he's taking the side of the person asking the question. At that point, it's like, oh shit, like, well, if this person's taking my side, then who really controls the frame? All right, let's take a look at the next clip. So this is him with Megyn Kelly. And this is actually a dope fucking interview. I think this thing has a lot of, there's a lot of things you can learn about game just from the series of interviews that Megyn Kelly did with Putin. It will be way too long for me to analyze all of them, so I picked one of the key ones.
Met in June, I asked you about the conclusion of our American intelligence agencies that Russia interfered in our presidential election. You told me that there was nothing specific in these reports. That if there's anything specific, you said, then there will be something to discuss. You told me, as they used to say in the KGB, addresses, houses, names.
He's like chuckling at his own witticisms. He's like, haha, that was a good one, Vladimir.
Since then, 13 Russians and 3 Russian-owned companies have been indicted by a special prosecutor named Robert Mueller in the United States for interfering in our election. The Internet Research Agency, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and others running a cyber warfare operation out of an office at 55 Savashkina Street, St. Petersburg, Russia. Addresses, houses, names. So can we have that discussion?
So this is a very powerful. Megyn Kelly's also really good at frame control. She's a good interviewer, whether you like her or not. So this is a very powerful way to start off the conversation. Like, she just literally, lists all the things, and she's like, okay. She just mounts the evidence, and then she's like, can we talk about this? Now watch how he handles this, though.
Now?
Of course. Not only can we, but it seems to me that if this particular subject continues to trouble you, we actually should talk about it.
So this is the same strategy he used near the end of the previous interview. So she's like, well, we have all this evidence. Can we talk about it? And then he goes like this and says, yeah, of course. Well, if this is troubling you, we should talk about it. So he's like on her side. It's as if it's his idea to talk about it, even though this is clearly a topic that Putin would rather avoid. So again, that kind of flux with the person who's asking the question. It's like, whoa, this person is on my side now?
Why would you allow an attack like this on the United States?
Why have you decided the Russian authorities, myself included, gave anybody permission to do this?
So this is also a very powerful tactic. So when someone asks you an accusatory question, you ask them an accusatory question back. So your girl's like, why did you do this? Why did you assume that I did this? So question with a question rather than answering the question. Because usually the one who is asking the question is the one who has the power in the interaction. So if you're the one that's asking the questions, then you take the power back in the interaction.
Nothing has changed since you and I talked last time in St. Petersburg. Some names have popped up. So what? They could just as easily have been the names of some Americans who are sitting here and interfering in your own political process.
but it wasn't Americans, it was Russians. And it was
I love this thing he does with his face, like
hundreds of people, a monthly budget of $1.25 million, all designed to attack the United States in a cyber warfare campaign. You're up for re-election right now. Should the Russian people be concerned that you had no idea this was going on?
So what she does here is actually also very much worth noting. So basically, she basically forces Putin to try to pick a path. So he's saying, why would you assume that the Russian authorities had anything to do with this election thing, like we clearly knew nothing about it? So then she tries to pigeonhole him and say, well, if you didn't know about it, doesn't that make you incompetent, right? Why should the people vote for you if you don't know what's going on in your own country? So at this point, he has to basically pick, okay, either we were responsible for this or we're incompetent. She basically forces him to pick between two choices. She tries to pigeonhole him. So the only way to handle that is to create a third option for yourself, which is what Putin does because he's also quite good at frame control.
On in your own country, in your own hometown?
Listen, the world is very large and very diverse, and there is a fairly complicated relationship between the United States and the Russian Federation. And some of our people have their own opinion about this relationship. You mentioned a number of names, some individuals, and you're telling me that they're Russians. So what?
Do you condone these activities?
No. We don't encourage them and we don't order them. But what I'm saying is that
unless it is Sunday, in which case I order them every day.
Individuals could have used certain tools in other countries. They could have sent relevant information from France, from Germany, from Asia, from Russia.
And so this is another thing he does. So he's basically, when you're having a frame control battle or having an argument with someone, you can go head on and attack, their arguments, but it's much more powerful if you chip away at the foundation of their argument. That's what he's doing. Her sources, she mentioned sources, which is what she based her argument on. Well, these people were caught. But if he's chipping away at the sources saying, well, how do you know that this person that you have your information from is actually Russian? How do you know he's not a foreign agent pretending to be Russian, right? And in reality, she doesn't know that, so she's like, well, shit, I don't know that. Okay, so if the foundation of the argument is false, then the argument by default has to be false. So this is, again, very powerful frame control strategy. All right, let's take a look at the last clip.
You didn't answer my question, sir. If all of you...
So this is she had already been asking a question. It was just about the serial killer, the killer stuff that the guy mentioned in the first interview. But watch how he handles this reframe.
Your political opponents are dead, in prison, poisoned. Doesn't that send a message that you do not want a fair political fight?
All right, about my opponents being jailed or imprisoned. People went into US Congress with political demands. 400 people are now facing criminal charges. They are facing prison terms of up to 20 or maybe 25 years. They are called.
So this is also a very powerful frame control strategy. So they say the best defense is a good offense, which is exactly what Putin is doing. So she just came at him like, all these people are dead. How can this be a coincidence, right? Clearly you don't want you don't have justice or fairness in Russia, right? Instead of defending that, he's attacking, America, which, i.e. her, the person, because she's American. So he's saying, well, what about all the people who went to Congress? Now they're facing 20, 25 years in jail. He's using basically I call it the you're a hypocrite frame control tactic. So he's pointing out ways why the interviewer is being a hypocrite right now with an offense. And that is also a very powerful frame control tactic.
Homegrown terrorists. They are being accused of many other things. 70 people were arrested right there on the spot. 30 of them are still arrested. On what grounds? Not quite clear. None of the official authorities from the states are informing us about it, so we don't know that. One of the participants, a woman, was shot dead on the spot. She was not threatening with, with arms. Right?
So this is the trap that Putin sets for the interviewer. So basically, if she acknowledges that that lady was shot dead by the cops or whatever, which she can deny that, but she's not going to because that's what happened, right? Then she has to admit that she's a hypocrite for asking the question because, well, if her country does some shady shit, then why shouldn't Putin be allowed to do shady shit? So again, so if you can, instead of defending yourself, if you point out why the person accusing you is being a hypocrite, that's a much more powerful strategy.
Why am I bringing this up? Many people are facing the same things as we do. And I am stressing this. We are sympathizing with the United States, but we do not want the same thing repeating here.
And there he goes. All right, so to quickly summarize, there's several frame control strategies that Putin uses. The first one, of course, is his infamous chuckle. But this is a strategy in of itself because he's right away, dismissing the seriousness of the person's allegation. Like, so they're coming at him with pretty hard shit, and by laughing it off, it's like, oh, maybe it's not so serious as I thought. It's taking the severity of the argument down a notch right off the bat. The second thing he does is he loops around and takes the side of the person asking the question. So someone's coming at him like, oh, what about these people, blah, blah, blah. He comes around and says, yeah, you're right. We do need to find out what happened to them. Right? And that really fucks with people because if he's standing on the same side as them, then they can't really accuse him of it, right? Because he's also trying to figure it out. That's the second thing he does. He also really believes that the best defense is a good offense. So when people accuse him of shit, he tries to accuse, them, i.e. their country, of the same thing. Ideally something that forces them to be a hypocrite. And no one wants to be a hypocrite. So if you can catch someone in an act of hypocrisy, then they usually have to back down. So those are the three strategies that Putin uses. There's several more that are a bit more subtle that I mentioned throughout the video. Hopefully you guys found this breakdown valuable. Show us some love by smashing the like button, hitting subscribe, and clicking the bell for notification. Let us know if you want me to do more of these frame control analysis. Maybe I can do our former ex-president or some other famous people that you find valuable. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.